High Noon remains one of the greatest Western movies of cinematic history. Much of the 1952 movie was filmed in a Warner Brothers studio backlot, but many scenes were shot in obscure locations in Central California. Join Jeff as he takes this episode of History Hunters to locations never before seen on YouTube.
I'm in Tuolumne City, California, Tuolumne County, and that church behind me is the one that was used in the filming of High Noon. In the movie, Gary Cooper is seen walking back there from that direction towards the church, and he goes up to the church, and of course he surprises the pastor, and he tries to recruit some help.
The day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be as... Yes?
I'm sorry, Parson. I don't want to disturb the services.
You already have.
He meets with some resistance with the pastor. They're torn. Should they help him? Should they not help him?
Maybe some of you already know it, but if you don't, it looks like Frank Miller's coming back on the noon train.
The pastor doesn't want to weigh in because he doesn't want to condone violence, but yet he also doesn't like what's going to happen to the town when the bad guys come in. In the movie, you will see a shot of the back of Gary Cooper walking in this direction towards this church. And I cannot say with any certainty if they actually shot the movie inside this church or if they shot it in a studio. But what we'll try to do is go in and see if we can find out a little more about it. This is St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Looks like it was built in 1908. So if Gary Cooper actually did walk up these steps, which he probably did, it would have gone right here. As I was walking up to the door, that lady came out. They're having mass here. It's a Catholic church. But when I stuck my head in the door, I can tell you that it's not the same church that was featured in the movie. There's stained glass, which is not in the movie at all. So as you can see, there's stained glass. Of course, that could have been put in later. I'm not going to go in and interrupt Mass just to take a look at the church. So I'm going to assume the inside of the church scenes were actually shot on a soundstage in Hollywood, not in this church. Nestled in the Sierra Nevada foothills, Tuolumne City is a sleepy town dating back to the Gold Rush days, but primarily known for its logging industry. Michael Landon and Victor French came here in 1984 to film an episode of the TV show Highway to Heaven. I took advantage of a trip to Columbia State Historic Park with Sarah and her grandmother to visit several buildings used in High Noon, including the Wilson McDonald house, which Gary Cooper visited in the film. I was just told by a gentleman that performs here on the street regularly that Grace Kelly used the upstairs of that house behind me, the Wilson McDonald house, during the filming of High Noon. Maybe she slept there, maybe she just did her makeup there and stuff. While in Columbia during October 1951, Grace Kelly posed for these publicity shots for the film. In the movie, you can see Gary Cooper grabbing this slat in this gate to open it. While in front of the Wilson McConnell house, I explain its role in the film to Sarah's grandmother, Lillian. In high noon, he's got some bad guys that he arrested. They're coming out of state prison, and they're going to come to seek revenge on Gary Cooper. And then, so he tries to find some help to help him, get a posse. Well, he goes up to this house here, and he knocks on the door, and Harry Morgan's supposed to be answering, the guy from Dragnet.
Yes.
And his wife, he has his wife answer that door because he doesn't want to go out because he knows he's going to get killed by these guys. So he's hiding behind that door as she says he's not here. And Gary Cooper knows that he's in there and he's just not wanting to answer the call. So he's a coward.
I remember that.
And then he goes out of that gate and he goes walking up to the firehouse. Cumbia had fire protection from this vehicle. It's an original antique vehicle called the Pete, and it was also in the movie High Noon.
This is where Clint Eastwood comes to send a telegram in the movie Pale Riders.
Gary Cooper is running behind this building here. So as he comes around this way, the camera actually catches a glimpse of this building behind me right here. And it has an air conditioning unit. Which is a blooper because there were no such thing as air conditioning units in the 1870s. So in the movie High Noon, Grace Kelly hears the gunshots. Her husband, Will Kane, has just been involved in a gun battle. She's racing to find out if he's okay. She races down this street to where the shooting took place, and to much to relief, the bad guys have been shot. So right now, we're going to take a drive out to where they filmed most of High Noon, at least the railroad scenes. The bad guy, Frank Miller, is coming back into Headleyville to take care of Sheriff Will Kane. And Grace Kelly also came out to this filming location because she had to board the train to leave Headleyville. She wasn't going to stick around and watch her new husband get killed by Frank Miller, the outlaw. Katie Geraldo, the actress, and Grace Kelly both came out here to this location, as well as all three bad guys. So if you had come out here in 1951 when they were filming High Noon, there would not have been any of these almond trees because almonds weren't in demand back then. We are coming up on Headleyville, or what Hollywood wanted you to think was Headleyville, northeast of Waterford, California. This is the intersection of Waterville and Crabtree Roads. On this spot right here was a depot that was used for the filming of the movie. Katie Geraldo and Grace Kelly stepped off the train approximately where I'm standing. They got off the train right here. The depot was right here. It was just built as a set, Hollywood set that they later removed.
Photograph of the train depot used in High Noon. It was right here where my Subaru sits.
Bad guys who were here filming the scene were Ian McDonald, Robert J. Wilke, and Lee Van Cleef. They all were in this particular spot here where the train depot was. There was a little patio off to the back that shaded the people who were waiting for trains, and that's where most of the action takes place. But there's one scene that I thought was pretty cool where they're all looking down the tracks that way. They're looking very sinister And Lee Van Cleef in particular has got his little squinty bad guy eyes on, and it's just an awesome scene. And then you hear the wail of that train whistle, and you see the puff of smoke arising off in the distance there on the horizon, signaling that something bad is going to take place. Gary Cooper is sensing that he's going to die in this picture, and he starts writing his last will and testament. And he licks the envelope, and then he goes out and he faces his mortality. But of course, it turns out that the good guy won on this one.
My butt hurts.
One of the bad guys smashed a whiskey bottle or a beer bottle right there where you're sitting.
Sitting right where someone smashed a beer bottle?
Yes, in the movie, one of the bad guys. The train tracks, as you look back here, were the long shots that you see in the movie, where you see that hill way up in the distance, and then later at the end of the film you will see the smoke rising, you will see the train arriving, which brings the bad guy, Frank Miller. There is one thing that's still here as an artifact from that movie, and there's Sarah tolerating another history hunt from a movie she has never seen. Are you going to see the movie after this? That's just like Sarah. I have to show you the last remaining thing from the movie. There was a water tower right in here, and it has since fallen. But this pump house right here is in the movie. You will see it off to the left side of the picture. So this is the only part of the movie that is still here. The hill in the background has also changed from the time that they filmed, because at one time it was just solid brown, not developed. Right now they have a grape vineyard growing on part of it, so that's a major difference you will see in the background. On the other side here, Nickelodeon was shot here in the 1970s. I think it was about 1974, 75. They built a town out here, and they used the train tracks and did a little car chase scene out here. Burt Reynolds came out here, James Best came out here, John Ritter was involved in the shooting, and they spent about a week out here. Tatum O'Neal, I can't forget her. She said she hated this place. It was hot, it was summertime, and she absolutely hated Modesto. Although this isn't Modesto, they stayed in Modesto.
Can't blame her.
You can't blame her for what?
For hating Modesto. It's a horrible town. Meth-ridden, homeless. There's people over there waving at me. I don't know who they are.
Austria-born Fred Zinnemann, seen here coaching Grace Kelly at the depot filming site, was one of the first directors to use authentic locations and mix stars with civilians to give films more realism. This is Crabtree Road. Warnerville Road goes back to Oakdale this way. This way goes back towards Waterford. The camera crew set up here to take shots of Grace Kelly running off the train. When she heard the gunshots, she was concerned about her husband. One of the gentlemen that I know at my church in Waterford said that he came out here as a boy and he thought Grace Kelly was dressed so nicely that she looked like a princess. Grace Kelly quit acting at age 26 to marry Prince Rainier of Monaco. At age 52, she suffered a brain hemorrhage while driving her car and crashed down an embankment. The trauma caused her to suffer a second hemorrhage, and she died at the hospital. In the background, you can see an apple orchard. And for many years, those apple trees stood here, and they've all fallen. It's kind of sad to see them all go. It's just like all the actors and actresses, they've all passed away. So I found out that the opening scenes of High Noon with the bad guy standing on the rocks were actually shot a couple miles from here. It's on the Brooks Quarter Horse Ranch, and I would love to see if we can gain access to go into that property and see if they'll show us where those scenes were shot. So,
well, if not, we could trespass.
Or I could fly my drone over it. Okay, so I'm going to call them now and see if we can reach them.
Hello, you've reached Brooks Quarter Horses and Lee, Mary, and Brooks. We're unable to get to the phone right now, but please leave us your name and number, and we'll call you back.
Well, I guess we're going to have to go up there and see if anybody's home. You wanted to go check out that old corral and barn, right? And see if there's some cows out there?
You wanted us to check it out. I want to see if there's cows.
Oh, and that little oil tanker thing? Robert Blake filmed an episode of Joe Dancer out here, and I remember seeing that. Sarah is really an animal freak, if you couldn't tell from her past episodes.
Come here. Come on. Come on, ponies.
Nothing doing.
Nope. They're busy eating stuff. Ponies.
That needs some grease.
That was very horror movie.
That windmill over there is
it's a ghost.
Screeching like crazy.
This is no longer history
some grease.
hunters. This is now, what do you call that? Extra
Ghost hunters.
No, it's not extraterrestrial hunters. That's it's now, I don't know what the heck you call it.
Hitting a dead end. I've tried to gain access to this ranch. It's the Leonard Brooks Quarter Horse Ranch, but this is the property where the bad guys, I know Lee Van Cleef was here. They were hanging out, and there's an opening scene where they're sitting on rocks and the bad guys are racing their horses along this stretch of ground. The ranch is also where Gary Cooper and Grace Kelly are seen riding in a buggy away from town and back to it. The reason that I knew that it was shot here is because there's some distinctive jagged rocks that are pictured in this scene, and I knew that it had to be this area. And I confirmed through some internet research that this is where they filmed. Because I can't get in, and because there's a sign that says private road, no trespassing, I'm going to fly my drone over it. When they shot it here in October of '51, of course it was dry, and so all the grasses here were yellow. Everything's kind of green here because it's still spring.
Do not forsake me, oh my darling, on this our wedding day. Do not forsake me, oh my darling, wait long. The noonday train will bring Frank Miller.
In my drone footage, I saw a number of possible film locations, but could not positively identify them.
And I must face that deadly killer. Are I a coward, a craven coward? Are I a coward in my oh, to be torn twixt love and duty, supposing I lose my fair half beauty. Look at that.
I like westerns because the good ones are real. You feel real when you're making them, and well, you don't feel actorish.
High Noon may be the ultimate Western because one man pushed past his fear and displayed that rare courage to stand for what is right. In the end, he prevailed as the hero. Maybe we'd all like to see ourselves in Marshal Will Kane.
Although you're grieving, I can't believe it until I shoot Frank.